Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Feminine Legacy Podcast. This is your host, Jackie Ma. And today I want to tell you a personal story and talk to you a little bit about integration and my journey with the masculine and the feminine and how we need to discard our understanding and beliefs around what these principles are and who we think they are and who we think we are in relationship to them, and allow for a larger current of life that is beyond our mind to really guide and shape and support us on our own personal evolutionary path. So I'm going to begin by saying that, we're living in a dual reality right now that is very confused. It's inverted, it's upside down. Even all the spiritual houses. Of course, those are the places that are going to become very corrupt because there's so much power there. So we're doing the best we can in these bodies, trying to correlate and understand what is happening at a multidimensional level and show up in this world, and hopefully like trying to disarm our hearts and be in connection with who we truly are, and acknowledge that we are divine and that we are human and they are one. So I'm just going to take you on a little trajectory of how like Jackie Ma got to be in some of the terrain that I've moved through, and I'm deepening in my forgiveness with, and what others are seemingly doing. So first, please know I respect that each one of us is on our own dynamic path, and some of us are collectively moving in waves of similarity, like that we are like groups of us are doing specific things at certain times, while other groups are ushering in and passing the baton to other groups. Like there's a divine matrix and we are a part of it. And some of us are still very rooted in like the old matrix. And that's okay. When the time is aligned, should that be aligned, there will be some like network shifts and those folks will come online in another wave, right? But we're all just doing this thing together. It's this it's this cosmic wave on earth that is just moving, effulging, like creating, generating, destroying over and over again. And um, we're just participating in a very divine thing. So, when I would say my first wake up call was when I was getting shaken out by being pregnant and embodying the mother, which is a lifelong journey. And that was when I guess I was full pregnant when I was 17. And so that was like a first wake up call of like, wow, we hold babies. This is huge. And the mother energy is so powerful. Like what we can undergo, what we can forgive, what the physical mother goes through, and what the mother goes through for those that are not actually birthing children, but that are carrying the mother energy because they're pregnant with it too. And P.S., please know, I'm not saying that to be inclusive. Like I'm saying it for real. And I do not diminish the fact that it is highly different than a woman who's actually carrying a baby in her belly. Let's just be clear about that. There is a full, rich dynamic there, and whatever is yours. And that's it. There's no better or worse. I just needed to clarify because folks are ridiculous right now. Okay, so um, that was the big emerging wake up call of love, right? Of love coming through me. Like, I don't know who I would have been if I didn't have that service, that divine service that was coming through to love this being. Like, it ripped me open in ways unimaginable. It's still ripping me open in ways unimaginable. So that was huge in a very, like, obviously very grounded, powerful way. And then when about 2010, I had a spiritual awakening that blew the gasket open. I mean, it was like full on, holy mother, what is going on here? I realized that I was not from this planet. Like what was opening and coming through me, all these angels, all these divine beings, all these beings who were so excited to communicate with me, like whether it was Athena or like just awareness of so many masters, so many angels, and so many animal spirits and elders. I mean, you name it, they were like all there with me. And I felt this next gush wave of like, oh my God, love. Like love I'd never felt before. Because it was a different type of love. It was divine love. It was different even than I was holding a fractal of it when I was mothering Cody, but this was like cosmic love. This was where more of me was coming online, and my access to consciousness became incredibly enhanced. And so at that time, I was communicating with pretty much anything that wanted to communicate with me because I didn't have the discernment yet. And I was highly protected. Otherwise, things could have gone quite awry. And they seemed like they did, but all of that battlefield and chaos was part of my training. But I realized that, wow, I'm communicating with beings from other planet. P.S. Mother Earth, remember, she is a planet in a solar system. I know oftentimes even like we just seem to think that she's like this earth-based rooted thing, and that like our consciousness around how we even relate to her could grow up and evolve a bit. So I work on that all the time. I'm like, oh yeah, like being grounded. I mean, we're we're in like a solar system. We're grounding on a planet, and so that means that she is all. This is a star planet, also, right? So everything is alive, and everything is um, essentially intergalactic because we're floating around in the sky. Anyway, okay, so, um, but we lose that perspective, you get it? Because we're here on Earth. Okay, so let's try to include both because it will help you to understand the full complexity of who you are and what's available. One is not better than the other. We're honoring our Earth experience and opening to the fullness of bringing heaven on Earth. So that means bringing all of us here so that all the world are meeting. So then I moved through that terrain for some time and was like, wow. And like all the goddesses that were showing up, it was just like very full. And then all of a sudden, there was a shift and there was a real deep call to ground, right? Like all these, it's like all these pathways of light opened up, um, like an interstellar doorway opened. And then all of a sudden, I needed to ground it all down. And there was this ego and distortion that was there, and that was there in the collective of like, you're ungrounded, you're doing this wrong. And that couldn't have been farther from the truth. Like when you take in, for people who don't know any better, who are just grounded and have not had that door open, they don't know what they don't know. So again, that's why everybody's on a personal journey. So if you get blown open, yeah, you need to ground it here. It needs to come into the body. Why? Because you're bringing you into the body. And all of you has not incarnated. Like all of me still has not incarnated. We'll be having a different conversation when all of me is fully here. But a great deal of me is now here. So just more and more awakens and opens. So then we ground it down. And we do that for a period of time. Like we'll always be grounding it down, no doubt. Everything that opens, that comes through for us, we have to bring it down into the body. That's that which is for us, and anchor it into our vessel and on the earth. Like that's our work to do. And there's also a lot of compartmentalization that happens along the way, and also that will heal. It's just learning how to navigate um, our nervous systems, learning how to navigate all the vastness. I mean, our brains are literally, I mean, most people don't even acknowledge how much power we have. Like, it's just wow. Wow. So to be able to anchor that down here and be able to be of, maybe not from the earth, but of it, and just being here and honoring it. So I say that to say that then there was this long period of time where I was called to travel the world, and I was like really interfacing with the Earth Mother in many diverse perspectives of landscapes, and learning from her and serving her and her children, and showing up in different ways that I was set up to do, like many of you are, right? And deepening in this connection of like this fullness of her. Like there's so many iterations of her. She feels different everywhere. And I feel different everywhere. And this was such, uh, an incredibly vast teaching for me that wherever you are, you are, and that you can travel the entire world, and every place you are, it will elicit something new in you. It will open up something old in you. It will create a potentiality or possibility of expansion. And this is real and it exists. And so, what a diverse and wonderful experience to travel the physical terrain. Why, while psycho spiritually transversing the multitude of terrain of soul retrieving and healing and caring for myself. And that's what a lot of people are doing. That work is like, it's karma work. It's work that we are bringing ourselves back online, healing ourselves, working with others. And yes, we are being of service with other people, but just this whole thing came online, right? And it was like very deep earth. And then the mother teachings were coming in so strong, like just this connection with the divine feminine, this connection, just awakening and opening up inside of me in relationship to the terrain around me, like the way that the flowers are blooming, the way that the ocean is moving. Like really, I became a very powerful receptacle. Um, and none of it was easy. P.S. I just want to preface that. I just need to do a time check. Yeah. Um, but that was part of my journey. I mean, like, I, I felt like I couldn't say no to it. Like, I packed up my things, me and my son, we moved to the south of France. We lived in Malta. We lived in Arezzo in Italy for some time. Like, wherever it was, I really had to let go of my old selves and change my reality. And it wasn't like I was like, oh, great. I mean, I went kicking and screaming. And then I didn't anymore. They're still often kicking and screaming. So every new iteration I became was part of me coming home to myself. Even if it looked crazy, I was learning discernment by falling down. I was learning what was not good for me when I got attacked, when I was being naive, right? Like all these different things were happening to me for me to be a very profound and strong, discerning human, divine human. And there was a time where I got very confused. There were many times like that, but very, very confused and embodied so deeply the priestess, the divine feminine, and that was important, and became so identified and possessed by it, um, that were related to other lifetimes where I had served as a priestess for different deities, for different beings. And these things were now playing out in the modern day life of Jackie, but they were from the past, right? Like living in the south of France, that was super old. And there was work I needed to do to reclaim and heal so that I can emerge as the true me. Um, and all at Malta, I mean, like everything was ancient. It's like we are working the past, the present, and the future, like simultaneously. So I say all that to say that I went so deep feminine and I identified so fully based on the trajectory of the embodiment from my past that I started to perceive the world and also take in a lot of collective conditioning around like what is considered to be a masculine path, what is considered to be a feminine path, what is like the right way to do it. And I know that a lot of people get very confused about that. One, I experienced it personally. And two, all the women that come to me now, not all, but ones who are walking like witch or priestess paths are highly confused and they've been infected. And so I'll talk about what that might look like. So, um, collectively, there were groups of us that had this opening at these timelines and had to really then root it down. Perfect. And then we became so identified with the rooting down that when it was time for us to get free, we didn't realize that we had also kind of created self-imposed prisons, and that we were like living out something that it could seem genuine. But for me, I noticed that it was also a very limited perspective. And it feels really good to experience power, big flows of energy, to believe and commit to something and feel like you're doing the right thing, and until you're not anymore. right? Until that becomes an impediment for you, until you become settled in your own consciousness. And a true spiritual path is always about getting free, right? Like moving the blocks out. It's not holding to something like I'm going to be a priestess of this forever. I urge you to contemplate. I mean, you can only do what you can do in the moment, right? But for me, I felt this even though that was happening for me, I also felt this flexibility. Like I'm not pinned down to any one thing. It doesn't mean that I won't commit, but I trust that when it's time for me to commit, I will commit to what is absolutely true for me in that moment. Like, and I doubted for a long time. I was like, do I not know how to commit? Like, but so much was moving so fast. It was like this path, these teachers, these beings. And it was a lot. It was very overwhelming. And a lot of folks are going through that in different ways. So everything comes down to integration. Like, I learned to do things when I first opened up. It was like I learned to do things so called from a masculine perspective. I just have to laugh now because I don't even know what the fuck that means. Like, it's actually really silly. Like, if I go up, that's the masculine. That's so distorted. I'm from up. Like, the mother is above and below. And then we're on the mother that's here, right? So, but like all of this misunderstanding. So, and I have met so many women who are walking the divine feminine path. I mean, I noticed that there is a big difference from those that are operating and holding different types of land, operating and in communion and stewarding different lands. Like here in North America, for example, it feels substantially different than it does when I am in Europe. And the old women, the old wise women traditions are very, very powerful and strong there. And everywhere it's very different. I'm really grateful that I got to have that full perspective. That was a privilege and a blessing. I wish I knew that at the time. So, my point is that I shifted perspective, like thinking that I was learning masculine traditions and that now I was deep feminine and I had to do things an entirely different way. And I did for a time. And then I just want to give you permission to shift again. Like now the vessels, we've grounded down this like super powerful quantum everything. And now we are opening again and we're bringing more in. And we're bringing things in more on our own terms because we've transversed a lot of terrain. And it's not about what is considered the masculine path or the feminine path. That shit is bullshit. I just want to say that to you. Like the mother is in everything. There's so many distortions. Now I get to look at like the full perspective of like all of it. I mean, everything I learned, there was confusion and distortion in all of it. And then the more we evolve and the more we mature, we can see like, wait, this perspective is off. How do I include all of me without naming it? And in this world, the duality of like male and female and black and white, I mean, like, we can't actually participate in that in our work, like of self. We have to just understand that we need to include all of ourselves. So being honest about that. And it's often hard to be honest about that without like proper teachers and folks who are guiding us for real. Not like 50 different teachers because you go to different workshops. I mean, like having a guru, having a somebody who brings the power and the teacher out in you for you to be able to up level your consciousness and discernment. So it took me, I've had a teacher now that I've walked with. She is my sister that I've walked with for 8 years. And we walk with the guru lineage. And nothing about it is masculine. This was my perception. I projected this onto it. And it's true that men were holding a great deal of these teachings. But guess where they got these teachings, y'all? They got them from the mother. Oof. The mother gave them these teachings and they work. They're like tried and proven. And um, there's so no matter what your walk is, don't discriminate. And I just want to invite you to keep it open. So let me tell you, I have been, I went through a period of kicking and screaming. Like my soul literally guided me into a direction. And I don't know what the future will be, but I know who I am more now than I ever could have known. And I won't deny that there are parts of me that have a very ancient, matriarchal, powerful relationship to the feminine and the earth and the body. And my gifts is so much a part of all that. And I would be wrong to omit the fact that I have a very powerful divine masculine and that I come from a lineage that is both male and female, and we have dynamic principles, and I am drawing through what works for my life, irregardless of how anybody else believes or how I've perceived them to be. Like, it's so important for you to understand that. So I'll give you a simple example. Like when I first started, I would open my heart to do a central access and I would go to the sky. I'd go to the 0 point field in the sky and then bring it down through my body and down into the earth and then back up through my heart like the cross. And then when I started to work with the divine feminine consciously, um, I started to learn all these teachings of going down into the earth first and then going up and coming back down into the body. And that was fine for a time. And now it's not anymore. Now I know that I need to go up first again because I'm deep earth, like I get it. And what I need is to bring forth more now. And as above, so below. Not as below, so above, as above, so below. So just honoring that. And in the beginning, there were so many personalities, so many structures in me that were so afraid of like compromising myself, or like there was so much conditioning, right, rooted in like church and the guru masculine, like so afraid of opening myself up to be more. Like, what if they take advantage of me again? What if I have so much, like, I don't want anyone to take advantage of my power. I'm going to stay really safe in this, like, enclave of what I have created in this divine feminine matrix for myself, that I'm going to do things a certain way. I'm going to believe all these rigid thoughts about how things are done. Um, and P.S., they weren't all rigid, but I just want to be clear that I moved from a very vast state to all of a sudden like a state of belonging to communities and women and operating in ancient timelines of priestesshood. And like this, honestly, what I believed was high service was servitude. And that was really hurtful to acknowledge. But that is what so much of the world is actually experiencing. It's where we believe we're in high service, but we're actually in servitude to the past. We're in servitude, even in the way that we are perceiving our realities and operating with the mother. There's a disempowerment there. The way in which we're operating with the spirit world, because we have to learn, like, that these beings aren't more than us, right? They're not better than us. We have to, like, it's a lot to learn and to unlearn of what we've been growing through. So there's a lot of judgment that can come online, and our collective world is filled with judgment and distortion. So we begin to take that in if that's available in here. And I did. And I started to judge everything I was before. And it's been a really big journey of returning home to love and accepting and embracing that I'm all of it. And not all of it is good for me anymore. And I can change my spiritual practices if that's what my higher self, my God consciousness is asking me to do. Then, God damn it, I'm going to get on board. Um, and so you can start to pay attention. So I'll give you an example. So now a lot, because I am integrating and transversing this terrain, it feels so much better to have a mother and a father. Like, I serve the mother. I am her embodiment because I'm in a female form. And I also am in divine service to life, which is part of the mother and the father. They are one. So this idealization of separation in what is this and what is that and who does this and who does that. The only thing I will say, the only ones who are given birth on this planet, physically are women, our mothers. I just want to anchor that here because that is a divine truth. That is a spiritual truth, period. Capiche? However, everything else, there is a fluidity. There is a distortion, and we get to heal and make decisions around what is true for us, not based on the collective shadowland, but on us. And we're going to mess it up a lot and get our knees dirty like kids and then come back again. So I just wanted to talk about integration now. Like, we are not meant to be these heavy holders of feelings and emotions and like weighed down with this deep, dense earth. That is actually not so. And we need the sunshine. Our souls are made of sunshine. Like, we are the warmth of the sun. So even the ideas, I'm not going to get into it too much, but with the moon teachings, with the feminine, there's a lot that is corrupt and misleading. Be who you are. Do not, there's like false doctrine. You don't have to embody or be anything other than the truth of who you are. So pay attention to what you're listening to, what is indoctrinating you. Just because other spiritual teachers are doing certain things, it doesn't mean that it's for you. And your work and my work is always to discern what is true, what is not true. And that's been a gift for me. Like, even when I went along with shit sometimes, I still knew like this isn't right. Like this, anyway. But so I feel like there's an evolution in the feminine wisdom traditions that wants to happen. It's happening through me. It's happening through the women that are coming through me, like through to be served. We cannot be fixed. We cannot be fixed on who we think we are, because then we live very shallow existences and we are not then in full service to life. And so just want to honor the integration that needs to happen now. Honor your rhythm. I have women that come to me, and of course they're coming because I experienced it myself. They feel like shame, like they weren't in their wombs, or they weren't doing enough women's work because they were like the, experiencing life outwardly in a very vast way. And I'm like, it's not your fault. Like, how your psyche and your spiritual self, how God opens you, that's between you and God. And no, it's none of your business for everybody else. They can't understand the complexity because they're not opening. A lot of folks aren't. So I just want to say, you're not getting it wrong. You can't get it wrong. There's times where we have to shift focus and we have to learn and mature and grow, but technically it's not wrong. And you don't actually have much of a say. Like, your ego, personality, human self, that's trying to be decomposed so that the parts, the divine self that's been, hiding underneath can get out and be like, hello, I'm here. So it's one thing to be rooted in and doing the healing and the womb work and being incredibly connected to the divine force that is inside of our womb space. But so much of that needs to like open up and have new perspective. You are not here to like belabor in the misery of heavy emotion and being like this really, really heavy being. I mean, you have to know who you are. But the reality is a deep, rich, open heart and open body is beautiful. And even like somatics, they're like, this is like a feminine path. No, it's not. It is not a feminine path. It is a path. It is not even a path. It is learning. It's adulting into just understanding what most of us already knew, what our ancestors already knew, is that the body is important and you got to take care of it. And so it's not that it's a feminine path, and it's not that masculine beings don't care about the body. They're operating at a different level of consciousness, and both are actually really important. That's why cultivating relationship with the body and somatics is really important, and knowing that you are actually not the body, because just like you saw everybody else, we leave the body. Who were you before you became, before you came into the vessel? We have to like really awaken that understanding that you are not your feelings, and yet feelings are beautiful and they move through us like waves of emotion. And there are things that we need to contend with and things that we do not. But I see like a lot of this ideology of like, and I see it because I experienced it firsthand. where I was so identified with my feelings, addicted to my own feeling, and believed that this was the divine feminine path. It is not a divine feminine path. It is a path that is a full path of healing, um, a lot of things. And again, nothing's wrong with that too, but it's true. That's like I was so, well, how does it feel? Everything was, how does it feel? And I like surrendered myself to all these aspects of me that are feeling all this stuff, but I didn't realize that like this higher presence is right there, available, accessible to me. And I'm sitting here like trying to bring everything through the body. And this is where you see healers becoming ill because they're funneling energy through the body. And what we're seeing is it's an outdated way of healing, and I experienced it firsthand, and I had to learn that there's a new way. I'm still learning all the time about that, but there's been a massive shift for me. Like, you don't have to cry with your clients. It's actually not necessary. You don't have to feel so deeply that you're like over identify with everything that is moving through you. Like, there are other ways. We have like really not been taught how to use our empathy, how to, we're learning so much. So I just want to say, oh my God, forgiveness and expansion. So the divine feminine and the divine masculine are one. Like, it's Shiva and Shakti. It's not just Shiva, it's not just Shakti. And if you study with any traditional path, like our foremothers and forefathers, us before, we laid it down like this is cosmic law. It's not just the mother, it's not just the father. Why shouldn't, I said to the client this past week, why shouldn't the mother have her boo? Like, there's a divine masculine and a divine feminine presence, period. And so acknowledge and explore the fullness of who you are. You cannot be here satiated in your divine humanity with just one lopsided. And then women want to like try to understand why our relationships with our men are so shitty. It's like we have to fully come in and embody and embrace the full trajectory of who we are. And I'm not getting into, again, what's the role of this one? What's the role of this one? They both have a role. And if you lean in and trust that, if you can want to, if you're like segueing, if you feel that what I'm saying is actually, makes sense, it's like, how do you segue from just being a child to like a single mother, like just the mother, and actually having a divine father too? And for me, that brings power. That brings in like a veracity, like a fullness of I can actually be here because I have this full dynamic that is moving and growing through me. The Shiva is like this consciousness, it's this awareness, it's this stillness. My son carries a lot of Shiva energy. Like, he walks into the room and the room is still. Like, he carries that silence in him. And the mother, if we just are so deeply embedded it without Shiva, we are just sitting in illusions because she's everything. It's like swimming everything inside of us, feeling, sensing, and she's constantly trying to teach us and grow us. But we can be so stuck in the mud and be so limited in our perceptual beliefs. And then we actually take on the dogma, right? Like the dogma we were running from like the churches. Now we take on the dogma of what it means to walk a feminine path. And it's like, that's bullshit. Like, if you're working with spiritual teachers and women who are like don't have life in them because they're so rooted in the earth that like they can't, like there's no spaciousness for joy and fullness and clarity of like, it's not always about what you feel, honey. Like, this, look at this is unsafe for you. You might want to do it, you might feel all these things, but just understand the polarity of this can come together in unity. And that is where I feel like that's where I am, and that's where I am ushering in my client work, like this understanding. Like, for some people it was all psychology, and then somatics came out because we had been ignoring our bodies, and now we're moving through like everything is feeling. Don't get caught up in that shit either. It's a moment in time. Use whatever is arriving and understand that there is a full spectrum and nuance of teachings, and you will be called and guided. But there is essentially, we want to create a congruency. We want to be integrated here in order for us to fully embody, incarnate in these forms. And that will look different for everybody. And that's why different folks will come to me than they will come to for somebody else. And we're all in these different timelines and like passing the baton, like you need this, okay, I need this. And so we're just, it's all here. And let's get out of the idea of the hierarchy, like that's the men way. Bullshit. Bullshit. Like there is higher consciousness and there is more dense consciousness. The earth is dense. It doesn't mean she's not exquisite. It doesn't mean she's not wonderful. It means that she's dense so we can actually stay on her, right? So gravity can hold us to her. And we are, if in order for us to heal, like deeply heal, we need to have these higher cosmic energies in our souls and in our bodies. We need to become adept of the at the five elements. We need to learn what we weren't taught before. And these teachings were hidden from us when we were kids. We didn't grow up with them. And there's a reason for that too. But now is the time. There's a big, big awakening on the planet, and now is the time. So, to my divine feminine sisters who are walking past a priestess and witch, I want to say, walk in your path with a hold it lightly. There will be so many iterations of you. And if you are so identified with who you think you need to be, you will miss a full other lifespan of who you are and what you've come to experience. More different people, different teachings. And you want to fulfill your dharma here, right? We want to move through all this karma and get to the dharma, which is like, oh, all right, I can rest a little bit in who I actually am, you know, who I am without being subservient to a deity, without being subservient to a master, but start to really understand the inner teacher. Um, it's profound. And I want that for everyone who comes through me, for sure. So now is the time of integration. So just in short summary, allow it all and really keep calling in your highest divine discernment. And it's natural that things will change. Don't feel like you have to be rooted in like one spiritual practice forever. Like you might, as I did the other day with another woman, like to switch it instead of going down, going up. It's like, why are we doing that? Just feel how the energy, sense and know how it feels different. And you don't have to, you're not betraying anything. For me, I felt like I was betraying, um, like some way that things should be done. Like this is the divine feminine way. And it's like, that's full of crap. That was not real. So you have to really embrace what is here for you and what is true for you. So all the peace and blessings to you, on the fulfillment and the realness of what it is that you need at any given moment. So release being fixed and give a lot of kisses. and and don't become so satiated with like, I'm this kind of priestess and I'm this kind of mother. It's like, yeah, you want to actually be of service, let go of all that shit. Let go of all of it, because more and more of you will open and you'll start to be like, oh, everything's here after all. But like, wow, I can breathe deeper. A woman who I just worked with, she's like, oh my God, she was so resistant. She's like, I don't know if I started with those masculine traditions. I don't know if I can go down. And that's exactly what I was. I was so resistant. Like, you want me to do what? Like, you're walking a masculine path. Like, I know what I'm walking. Like, I know, I didn't know shit. Like, I knew what I thought I knew at the moment. So, and that's, yeah, it's just beautiful. It's so beautiful. And I just want to hug myself and hug you. There's so much here. And be careful when you're perceiving what other people are doing, because one of the tests will be for you is whether you can stay true to what is alive in you. And I'm going to be honest, it's really challenging. Like, because oftentimes we think things that are true are, because we're so identified with parts of ourselves, and they're not true. So that's a whole other topic around like really discerning intuition, and then also sometimes the pull is so strong karmically for us to walk in certain ways that even when we know it we're like, I don't want to do that. It's because our higher intelligence knows that this is actually, it's the way, and it's like we know that it's chaotic, but we have to walk through it. We have to gain the lessons, the wisdom, and the understanding in that pathway. We're all divine. We are all divine. But we have to, each one of us is bringing something onto this planet. And in order to bring it through, we have to have an experience. So lots of love and grace as you're moving through it. Integration is key, kindness, generosity. Don't fucking look at what other people are doing. Don't, "Well, I want to be like that." No, you have your own pathway. Make your prayer always, please send me the highest divine teachers for my path. And if you are right on time in this lifetime, if you are blessed to have a true teacher that shows up for you, then you're walking a real spiritual path in this incarnation. And I feel really, really grateful that has happened for me, and that is here. And I want that for you. So make that prayer. I want the highest spirituality. It is enormous. And we'll do that. And we're all spiritual beings. So you'll do it in whatever way is for you. But when you have a teacher, like a true person to walk with your soul on the path, and P.S., not the path as though it's one specific thing, it's just your walk. That's it. Sometimes we get so confused too, and like, on, it's just my path. It's like, fuck a path. Just love and honor the way in which you're walking. So we'll talk more about this. I don't know if this was informative, but anyway, integration, integration. Don't stay fixed. Stay true and be open. P.S. I'll say one more thing. Yes, there was a time when I was living in Europe, and so much old me, like, I say old me, not from this life, just like big matriarchal, high witch, this whole other trajectory of selves that was being incarnated and transformed, and all these things were happening. Even while this was happening, I had glimpses of my consciousness knowing, like, this was not all of me. Like, I knew it. I would go to like the goddess conference or places where these like powerful, where we rise together as women and do this incredible spiritual work, and it's like mother, 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 and something in me told me, this is not fully me. Like, this is part of me, and I need to be here, and I love this. I'm here to embody the divine mother, period. So my path is, and is always guiding me into further depth of the mother. But I also am, and I'm also the father. And so my point was, when I was there, even though I was fully enmeshed with all the ceremonies and everything that was happening, I was like, there's more to me. And I knew it. I was like, I'm different. And this is beautiful. I acknowledge I'm different than these women. Um, and when you can be with peoples and really like lean in and see who you are without being a chameleon, and merging with them and seeing like, a lot of this is me, and there's so much more, and I'm different than these women. I'm different than these groups of people that are here. Um, and that's dope. And when I look back now, I knew that my whole life. Even in my communities, I was always different from everybody that was there, and the same. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I was like, oh, I'm so special, but I was different. And it's important for you to know that about yourself. You can belong to yourself. You can belong. You have to, essentially, our whole journey is about longing to belong to ourselves. And when we stop doing that outwardly and start doing that inwardly, and that's a whole other episode, but that's the great work. So just set your sankalpam, set your intention, like, I want to belong to me. You don't need to belong to a community, honestly. The community is there for you to long to belong to yourself. But if you just set your prayer, it will happen internally and externally. And you'll realize that you belong everywhere. But everything that we're doing is because of inside. You're on this planet, like, not to belong to other groups of people, but to truly understand that you do belong, no matter who accepts you or not. You don't need other people's approval. Like, this is the journey for us. All right, I am getting off now. I'm sending you all big, big love and big blessings, and over and out. Ciao, ciao.